The truck that killed me had carried 10,000 blank notebooks. When I woke in another world, a drop of black ink crawled across my palm and wrote the name Aaron before I had learned how to hold a pen. 16 years later, that same ink earned me the lowest score in the history of Ashun's Academy. 312 applicants watched from the stone seats around the examination arena. A crystal target stood in the center. It had survived fireballs, ice spears, and one nervous boy who summoned a goat instead of lightning. The goat had scored 11 points. I raised my right hand. A thin stream of black liquid gathered above my finger. Instructor Merrick looked at his silver watch. Begin. I sent the ink at the target. It struck the white crystal and left a round black stain. The scoring pillar flashed once. Damage, 0, Merrick announced. Penetration, 0. Elemental reaction, 0. The arena went silent for one breath. Then Cord laughed. He sat in the front row because he had scored 814 points with his firehound. His red uniform was new, his boots were polished, and his smile looked like it had been trained by an expensive tutor. He defeated the color white, Cord said. A historic victory. The students around him exploded with laughter. I examined the stain. It was perfectly round. That was at least something. Unusual magic receives a utility test, I said. It is written in Article 7 of the entrance rules. Merrick covered the stain with his handkerchief. He rubbed it twice and made it larger. Ink is not unusual magic. Ink is dirt with ambition. More laughter rolled through the seats. A girl near the examination desk stopped writing in her notebook. She had short brown hair, a blue coat, and a press badge shaped like a silver feather. I had seen her that morning interviewing the best applicants. Article 7 does include non-combat elements, she said. He is entitled to a second test. Merrick did not look at her. The Academy newspaper does not control my examination, Luma. Cord leaned over the rail. My father donated 200 gold to repair the West Laboratory. Do you want Instructor Merrick to waste the evening testing a stain? That explained the instructor's watch. It also explained why Cord's target had been replaced after every attack while mine still carried cracks from the previous applicant. Merrick raised his voice. Enontrika Vishni, Yagi, Famuharster rank got. Bashti, final position, 312th. My name appeared at the bottom of the enormous ranking board. The boy above me had summoned the goat. He gave me an apologetic smile. The goat looked proud. 2 assistants dragged over the box of starter tools. High-ranked applicants had already taken the enchanted swords, staffs, rings, and armor. One object remained at the bottom. It was a cracked white quill with no rune channel. Merrick picked it up with 2 fingers. Every admitted applicant receives 1 asset. I suppose even last place deserves his weapon. He tossed it at me. The quill struck my chest and fell. I caught it before it reached the ground. Cord wiped tears from his eyes. Be careful. He might write us a very angry letter. I turned the quill between my fingers. Modern magic pens were covered in fixed runes. They guided mana into approved spell formulas. This broken quill had none. It was useless to every mage in the arena. For the first time that day, I felt lucky. I collected my admission token and left while 311 people discussed how quickly I would be expelled. Luma caught me beneath the western stairs and told me to appeal. I pointed toward the highest balcony. Dean Turvin had watched everything from behind the glass. When he noticed me looking, he closed a small black book. Then I will print what happened, Luma said. She sounded like a person loading a crossbow. I thanked her and returned to the cheapest room in the eastern dormitories. It had 1 bed, 1 desk, and a window facing a brick wall. If I opened the window, I could touch the other building. My total wealth was 4 copper coins. Dinner cost 6. I placed the cracked quill on the desk and waited for night. The moment the last line of sunlight left the window, the old stain on my sleeve moved. Black ink slid down my arm. It entered the broken quill and repaired the crack without filling it. A calm voice spoke inside my head. Public rejection confirmed. Hidden evolution is available. 3 paths are open, the voice continued. Ink Emperor controls liquid ink as a weapon. Story Summoner creates temporary creatures. Writer of Laws has no fixed spells, no automatic defense, and the highest recorded death rate. How high? I asked. 99 failures for every 1 success. The first 2 offered stronger versions of existing magic. The third offered no spells because it could create them. I choose Writer of Laws. The ink inside the quill turned gold for 1 second. Choice accepted. 1 ability has been granted. Anything written with your mana ink may become temporarily true. Current mana capacity is 100. A simple word costs 5 manas and lasts 5 seconds. Greater size, distance, resistance, or detail increases the cost. If mana reaches 0, the difference will be paid in blood. How much blood? 1 milliliter for every missing unit. I moved the quill away from my wrist. The voice warned that I could not command what I did not understand, overcome a stronger living will, or maintain an effect after its ink was destroyed. That was enough information for a first test. I poured a drop of mana ink onto the quill and wrote 1 word word on a broken plate. Fire. The word ignited. A flame the size of my palm rose from the plate. It gave real heat. It burned for exactly 5 seconds and then collapsed into black mist. My remaining mana was 95. On the entrance target, my ink had done nothing because it carried no meaning. With 4 letters and 5 units of mana, it had created actual fire. Someone knocked on my door. I covered the plate with my sleeve. Aaron, Luma called. "Owe me your room," flashed orange. "If you are burning the ball that's burned the dormitory, I need a quote before the fire brigade arrives, Mikio." I opened the door. She held geek my discarded examination record and a bag that smelled of fried dough. Her eyes moved to the smoking plate. "Was that your stain? It received a promotion die. Show me. You accepted that very quickly. I watched a goat earn 11 points today. My standards for reality are flexible." She placed my examination record on the desk. Merrick had falsely marked the utility test as completed. Luma had brought proof before asking for trust. I picked up the quill. The first word cost 5 mana. A vague word creates the smallest possible result. I want to test a precise description. I wrote on the floor between us. A stone wall, 1 meter wide, 2 meters high. There were 9 words. They consumed 45 mana. Stone grew beneath the sentence. A gray wall rose between us, reached the ceiling, and shook dust into my hair. Luma struck it with her pen. "Real stone," she said. The system voice measured its resistance at 210 units. The Academy's E-rank defense requirement was only 100. 5 seconds later, the wall melted into harmless ink. My remaining mana was 50. "Merrick gave you 0, she whispered. Merrick tested ink without words. "That is like testing a sword without a blade. More like testing soup without a bowl. That comparison makes no sense. I have not eaten today." She gave me 2 warm cabbage buns. Peppery steam rose when I broke the crust. "The placement ceremony begins in 1 hour, she said. "Merrick will make the rankings official. If that happens, your appeal could take 3 months. I have 50 mana. Is that enough? It depends on how many words Cord needs." For the first time, Luma smiled. 286 applicants returned for the placement ceremony. Families filled the upper seats, and merchants waited near the exits. 3 copies of Luma's newspaper hung beside the ranking board. The headline said, "Examiner denies required test to last place student." Cord tore down one. Merrick tore down another. Luma climbed onto the examination desk and raised the third. The crowd began to murmur. Merrick's face turned the color of old milk. "The article is misleading," he said. "Aaron demonstrated no measurable ability." "Then measure it," Luma replied. I entered the arena with my cracked quill. Every row whispered about the Stain Boy and the angry letter mage. Cord jumped over the rail and landed opposite me. His smile was gone. "Now, you are delaying the scholarships, he said. "Some of us earned our positions. Then you have nothing to fear." 1 minute, Cord told Merrick. "Aquis, let him survive 1 minute against me. When he fails, the newspaper prints a correction." Merrick looked toward the western laboratory. The repaired roof carried a bright plaque with Cord's family name. "Approved," he said. "This is not a legal retest," Luma warned. "No," I said, "and it is better. Everyone can see it." People stood. Merchants returned from the exits. Even the goat climbed onto a bench. On the second-ranked platform, Sarah opened her eyes. The heir of the famous calligraphy clan had ignored most of the ceremony. Now she studied my rune-free quill. Merrick raised one hand. "Begin." Cord summoned his enchanted shield and charged. His firehound needed 3 breaths, so he charged behind a steel shield strengthened 3 times by red runes. I waited until he reached me. Then I stepped aside and wrote 1 word across the shield. "Soft." The enchanted metal resisted. The word took 15 mana instead of 5. The shield folded. It wrapped around Cord's arms, waist, and polished boots. His charge continued, but his legs could no longer move separately. He bounced across the sand like a very rich potato. The arena became silent. Cord rolled once and somehow stood inside the folded shield. His face was red enough to cook an egg. "Firehound!" he shouted. Flames formed a burning beast above his trapped hands. I had 35 mana left. I wrote 3 words on a strip of examination paper. "Heavy rain here." The cost was 15 mana. I threw the paper beneath Cord. A black cloud appeared 1 meter above his head. Rain fell like an overturned lake. The firehound vanished in steam. Cord's Squeakmon shield became slick, and it rolled down the arena slope and dropped into the fountain. The splash reached the first row. For 1 heartbeat, no one reacted. Then the goat screamed. The entire arena erupted. Students shouted and climbed onto the seats. 2 assistants pulled a Cord from the fountain while he kicked inside his metal blanket. The scoring pillar flashed. "Spell suppression 260 points, it announced. Object alteration 180 points. Tactical result, victory." Merrick stared at the pillar as if it had insulted his mother. Sarah stepped down from her platform and examined the fading word on Cord's shield. "There are no standard runes," she said clearly. "He changed enchanted steel with ordinary language." The laughter stopped. Before they had believed I possessed nothing. Now they did not know what I possessed, and fear grew well in empty spaces. The system voice returned. My true writing had reached its second level. My maximum mana increased from 100 to 130. The longest stable sentence I could create increased from 9 words to 12. My strength had risen in front of 286 applicants, 19 instructors, 7 merchants, 3 noble families, and 1 wet goat. Luma pointed at the ranking board. "Update it." Merrick clenched his jaw. "One unusual result does not erase the examination." "Correct," Luma said. "Your false signature erases the examination." She raised my record toward the active recording crystals. Refusing would only give her a larger headline. He touched the ranking pillar. My name vanished from position 312. It reappeared at position 96. My F rank changed to provisional E rank. A clerk gave me 30 silver coins and registered the cracked quill as my bonded tool. I had entered the arena with 4 copper coins and a stain. I left with 30 silver, 130 maximum mana, and a crowd arguing about what to call me. The ink fool lasted 5 minutes. The black writer lasted 10. After Luma printed 120 papers, the law scribe replaced both. Cord hated every name. As the assistants cut him out of his shield, he promised to destroy me during the academy tournament. "Bring a towel," I told him. The first row laughed again. High above us, Dean Turvin stood behind the glass balcony. Everyone else watched Cord. The dean watched my quill. Then he opened his black book and wrote something inside. Luma and I left before Merrick invented another test. At a stall across from the academy, a cook filled 2 bowls with dark beef broth, thick noodles, roasted meat, green onions, crisp garlic, soft eggs, and hot pepper oil. The smell made my empty stomach hurt. The broth was rich and salty. The beef fell apart beneath my teeth, and the garlic cracked between bites of hot noodles. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. It was the best silence of the day. I paid 2 silver coins. 28 remained. "You counted them 3 times, Luma said. "This morning, dinner was more expensive than my entire fortune. And now? Now dinner is an investment in tomorrow's mana." She wiped a line of ink from my cheek, then quickly picked up her spoon. "You stopped after Cord fell," she said. "I almost thought you were kind. Kindness is free. I approve of it." Her smile became softer. When we finished, she removed a loose page from her notebook. A faded black symbol covered one corner. "I found this in the newspaper archive last week," she said. "It came from a diary stored in the old library. The ink moved. When I touched it, I thought it was a preservation spell." The symbol looked like the first mark the black drop had written on my palm 16 years ago. We returned to the academy. Luma's press key opened the old library. We descended to a reading room that smelled of dust, leather, and cold stone. One book waited inside a locked glass cabinet. Its cover carried a single name, Ivana. Luma opened the cabinet. The lock had already been broken from the inside. I placed the diary on the table and turned the first page. The opening line described a truck carrying 10,000 blank notebooks. My hands stopped. No one in this world knew about the truck. I turned another page. The diary recorded the drop on my palm, my childhood, my ink affinity, and the 4 copper coins I had carried that morning. Its final pages described the examination. Merrick's false signature was there. Cord's folded shield was there. Even the goat was there. Luma read over my shoulder. For once, she had no question. I reached the final written page. The last paragraph described the noodle stall. It recorded the 2 silver coins, the hot pepper oil, and the moment Luma wiped ink from my cheek. Below it waited one unfinished sentence. "Tomorrow, Aaron will open the sealed archive beneath Ashen Academy. There he will free the Demon King, Umbrak." The ink was still wet. Luma gripped my sleeve. The pages began turning by themselves. A man laughed somewhere inside the diary. Then a voice whispered from beneath the paper, "Thank you for bringing him to me, Luma." At sunrise, the diary wrote the exact minute when my blood would touch the seal beneath the academy. It gave me until noon. The new sentence appeared while Luma and I watched. At 12, Aaron will open the eastern path with his blood. "That is not the same sentence as last night," Luma said. "The diary is becoming more specific." "Is that bad?" "Specific writing is stronger." We closed the diary and locked it inside the glass cabinet. When we turned toward the door, it was waiting on the reading table again. Luma locked it a second time. It returned before she removed the key. "Persistent," she said. "I preferred the goat." I wrapped the diary in a gray library cloth and carried it under my arm. Leaving it behind was clearly not an option. Opening the eastern path was also not an option. So I planned to spend the day on the western side of the academy. Simple plans were useful. Reality needed fewer ways to misunderstand them. By breakfast, everyone knew about my victory. Students crowded around the ranking boards. Some pointed at my new position. Others argued that Cord had slipped because the fountain was badly placed. Cord himself arrived wearing a new uniform, a bandage on his forehead, and an expression that suggested water had insulted his ancestors. When the crowd saw me, it divided like a curtain. Yesterday they had laughed when I passed. That morning they counted the distance between us. Luma sold the final 30 copies of her newspaper in 9 minutes. She had charged 1 copper coin for the first edition. After the duel, she raised the price to 3. Demand changed, Shapi explained. You discovered greed quickly. Journalism needs paper. Paper needs money. Heroes need good headlines. I'm like, how much does a good headline cost? For you, breakfast. We needed 5 minutes to cross the courtyard. Yesterday, no one had wanted to stand near me. In that morning, 12 students requested demonstrations. A merchant offered 50 silver for a rain page like the one I had used against Cord. Another offered 10 silver if I could write warm inside his winter boots. I refused both offers. The effects begin when the writing becomes complete, I explained. Your rain page would expire before you left the courtyard. The merchant looked offended, as if I had personally invented time. Luma wrote the exchange in her notebook. When you learn to delay activation, 1 page could sell for 30 silver, she said. 10 pages a week would earn 300. First, I need to survive until next week. A less attractive headline, but practical. Cord approached with his father behind him. Nearby conversations stopped. Yesterday was a trick, Cord said. My shield was built to resist force, not grammar. Then complained to the shield maker. His father gripped his shoulder before he could answer. I donated 200 gold for a laboratory, the older man said. I did not pay Merrick to falsify a test. Cord stared at him. You said first place was necessary. It is. Earn it where everyone can see. He looked at me with the unhappy respect of a merchant who had discovered an unexpected competitor. If your ability is real, today's hearing will prove it. If Merrick lied, he will not use my family name as a shield. The crowd heard him. So did Luma's pen. Cord's confidence had come from pressure as much as money. That did not make him pleasant, but it made him understandable. We entered the dining hall. I bought 2 plates for 3 silver coins. Each held fried eggs, thick bread covered with honey, roasted potatoes, and small sausages with crisp brown skin. Hot apple tea washed away the dust from the library. 25 silver coins remained in my purse. Luma spread my examination record beside her plate. Merrick has called a disciplinary hearing at 11, she said. He accuses you of using an unregistered artifact. I looked at the cracked quill. The academy had registered it in front of hundreds of witnesses. He wants the hearing before noon. Yes. In the Eastern Hall? She checked the notice and stopped chewing. The Eastern Hall stood directly above the sealed archive. At 10, I sent Merrick a written refusal. At 10:15, 2 Academy guards delivered a second order signed by Dean Turvin. Refusing that order meant immediate expulsion and the loss of my scholarship. The diary had not forced me toward the Eastern path. The Academy had. Luma printed 50 notices about the hearing and placed them around campus. By 11, the Eastern Hall contained 140 students, 12 instructors, 4 merchants, and Cord's father. A recording crystal floated above the central platform. Public attention was becoming my cheapest armor. Merrick stood beside a block of black iron. His silver examiner badge shone on his chest. Cord waited behind him with his arms crossed. Dean Turvin watched from a raised seat. His black book rested on his knee. Aaron, Merrick said, your claimed ability does not match any registered form of ink magic. Until its origin is verified, your quill must be surrendered. The quill came from your starter box. The audience laughed. Merrick's eye twitched. The quill may have been altered after you received it. Luma lifted the official record. The bonding crystal registered no foreign enchantment. This is a disciplinary hearing, not a newspaper show. Then stop selling seats. Everyone looked at the 4 merchants in the front row. Merrick had charged each of them 5 silver coins for observation rights. His face hardened. A legal examination will settle this. Break the black iron block using the same magic. The D rank requirement is 300 points. If you fail, the quill is confiscated. And if I succeed? Merrick had not prepared that answer. Luma supplied one. He receives the standard 50 silver compensation for an incorrect ranking. His status advances to provisional D rank. Your false report goes to the Academy Council. Cord's father stood. He was a broad man with a red beard and a coat worth more than my dormitory building. My family funded this hall, he said. We did not come to hear a student reporter make rules. Sarah spoke from the second row. Those are academy rules. My clan witnessed them when the charter was signed. The hall turned toward her. Sarah wore a white training robe and carried 3 brushes at her waist. She did not smile at me. She merely disliked false calligraphy more than she disliked untrained ink. Dean Turvin finally raised one hand. The conditions are accepted. Merrick looked surprised, then he smiled. The black iron was used to test third-year combat students. It could endure 500 units of force. My strongest wall had measured only 210. Merrick expected me to attack the material. I planned to change the problem. My mana had recovered to 130 after sleep and breakfast. My longest stable sentence contained 12 words. I dipped the quill into the ink forming above my palm and wrote directly across the block, "This iron will crack beneath one strike from my right index finger." There were 12 words and the base cost was 60 mana. The iron resisted the change and demanded another 40. 100 mana left my body. The letters sank into the metal. I raised my right hand and touched the block with one finger. Nothing happened. Cord laughed first. Marek joined him. The black iron split down the center. Both halves struck the platform hard enough to crack the tiles. The scoring crystal flashed, 510 points. Cord's laugh ended with his mouth still open. The entire eastern hall rose. One merchant dropped his purse. Another offered me 100 silver for a single written weapon. 3 students ran toward the broken block and stopped when Sarah placed herself in their way. She inspected the sentence without touching it. No explosive rune, no hidden formation. Every word means exactly what it says. Merrick pushed past her. Masasiso, the target was damaged before the hearing. You selected it, Luma said. The boy altered it before arriving. You kept it inside your locked office. Merrick pointed at me. He is manipulating you. I signed the first result because Cord's family paid for a fair ranking, not because I wanted their money. Silence filled the hall. Cord's father slowly covered his face with one hand. Luma looked at the recording crystal. Thank you for the quote. Merrick realized what he had said. He lunged for the crystal. Sarah moved one brush. A white line appeared across the floor, and Merrick's shoes stuck to it. He fell forward. His silver badge struck the tile and slid to my feet. 140 students watched their examiner lie face down beside the target. He claimed I could not break. The Academy Council clerk removed his authority before he managed to stand. My name moved from position 96 to position 41. My provisional E rank became provisional D rank. A clerk placed 50 silver coins into my hand. My wealth rose from 25 silver to 75. The system voice announced that true writing had reached its 3rd level. My maximum mana increased from 130 to 160. Written changes to objects would now lose less powers when the description was exact. Strength, money, and status had all moved in the correct direction. The audience verified each number before Merrick could challenge it. Students touched the split iron. Merchants copied the score of 510. Luma read my new rank into the recording crystal 3 times. Cord's father removed his family plaque from Merrick's observation table and handed it to an assistant. The West Laboratory keeps our funding, he said. The instructor does not. Merrick watched 200 gold of protection disappear while 140 witnesses recorded his face. The floor moved too. A thin black line appeared beneath the broken iron. It ran across the platform toward me. The diary shook under Luma's arm. It is 11:58, she said. Merrick saw the black line and panicked. He tore free from Sarah's binding, grabbed the fallen examiner badge, and pressed it against the emergency rune cage built into the floor. "Confiscate his quill," he shouted. Silver bars rose around me. The crowd shouted. Guards moved, but Merrick still held enough authority in the badge to block them for 1 minute. The cage stood on the black line. Its eastern bar carried a small seal shaped like an eye. I understood the diary's plan. It did not need me to walk into the archive. It only needed the academy to place me above the entrance. Merrick reached through the bars and caught my writing hand. The broken edge of his badge cut my palm. 1 drop of blood fell. The hall clock struck 12. The drop hit the eye-shaped seal. Every lamp went out. The eastern half of the platform sank by 1 meter. A breath of air rose from below. It smelled of old paper and burned stone. Students screamed and rushed toward the doors. The recording crystal remained above us, showing everything to the crowd outside. Merrick released my wrist. "What did you do?" "Exactly what you forced me to do." The black line climbed his boots. He tried to run. The emergency cage blocked him from the exit as effectively as it blocked me. I still had 30 mana. I wrote 1 word across its lock. Open. The enchanted lock resisted and took 15 mana. Every bar dropped at once. Merrick fell over them, rolled off the platform, and landed at Cord's father's feet. No one helped him stand. The broken floor revealed the top of a stone staircase descending beneath the academy. Black candles lit themselves along its walls. Dean Turvin looked down at the opening. He did not seem surprised. Seal the hall, he ordered, so no student approaches the staircase. And his voice was calm, but his fingers pressed hard against the black book on his knee. Luma came to my side. She was now wrapped my bleeding hand with a strip torn from her sleeve. The diary predicted this. It arranged this. Sarabon joined us and examined the open path. That seal belonged to my clan, she said. It was designed 300 years ago. By Avena? Luma asked. Sarah looked at the name on the diary and went pale. Before she could answer, Dean Turvin ordered the guards to remove us from the hall. Merrick was taken in another direction without his badge. Students filled the courtyard, repeating every detail. By early afternoon, Luma's special edition had sold 200 copies at 5 copper coins each. Merrick's confession became the most popular sentence he had ever spoken. Turvin closed the eastern hall. 4 guards stood at every door. The staircase remained beneath it, but no monster emerged and no demon laughed. The prophecy had opened the path. It had not yet freed the king. That evening, Luma, Sarah, and I met in my narrow dormitory room. I spent 4 silver coins on a large chicken pie, buttered vegetables, and a pot of onion soup. The pastry cracked beneath the knife. Thick gravy ran around pieces of chicken and carrot. Sarah tried to eat with perfect dignity until hot filling burned her tongue. Luma pretended not to notice. I noticed enough for both of us. My clan records say Avena was the last guardian of the Eastern Archive, Sarah said after the meal. She died while sealing Umbrak. Her true name was erased from every public record. Then why is it written on the cover? I asked. The diary answered before she could. Fresh ink crossed the final page, because he needs you to write it again. The black candles beneath the hall went out. My bed moved away from the wall by itself. Behind it waited the stone staircase. There had never been a door there. The eastern path had moved across the academy and opened inside my room. A woman's black hand reached from the diary and gripped the edge of the page. Then a voice that did not belong to Umbrak whispered one warning. Whatever happens, do not write my name. The staircase under my bed had 100 black steps, although my room stood on the 3rd floor. Every 10th step whispered a different version of my death. One promised fire, another preferred teeth. The final step only laughed. The path remained still until dawn, giving my mana time to recover to 160. The woman's hand withdrew into the diary. I closed the cover before anything larger could follow it. Luma leaned over the first step. Far below us, shelves moved through the darkness like the ribs of a sleeping animal. I can borrow a broadcast crystal from the newspaper office, she said. Why? Sarah asked. Because yesterday public attention protected Aaron from Merrick. Today it may protect all of us from the Dean. Sarah looked at the impossible staircase inside my room. You do not trust Turvan. I trust what he does when he thinks no one is recording him. That was a useful rule for most people in authority. Before we could descend, someone struck my door 3 times. Dean Turvan entered with 8 guards and a group of senior instructors. He did not ask why a forbidden staircase had replaced my wall. He already knew. The Eastern Archive has selected a new entrance warrant, he said. All students will leave this building. The entrance selected Aaron, Luma replied. Turvin's eyes rested on the wrapped diary. That object belongs to the Academy. It knows about the truck that killed me in another world. For the first time, his calm expression broke. It lasted less than a second. Then it is more dangerous than I believed. The stairs shifted. The opening narrowed by half, cutting 2 legs from my bed. The mattress tilted and deposited my pillow at Turvin's feet. The dean stepped over it with dignity. The path may close soon. We will conduct an immediate expedition. Aaron will open the sealed doors. Sarah will identify clan formations. Luma may operate 1 recording crystal. May, why? Luma asked. Send 1 crystal. She smiled. 10 minutes later, she returned with 6. 300 students filled the courtyard below my window. More gathered around the Academy's public viewing wall. Luma linked every crystal before Turvin could object. If we disappeared, at least 900 witnesses would know where. Turvin announced a reward of 200 silver coins for closing the archive. He also promised an immediate C-rank review. My purse contained 71 silver after last night's dinner. I accepted. The first step felt like cold glass. The second whispered that Luma would betray me. The third said Sarah would stab me. On the fourth, the stairs claimed I would fall. I stepped over the fourth. The warning hissed in disappointment. We descended with Turvin, 4 guards, and instructor Merrick. I stopped. Merrick no longer wore his silver badge, or a plain gray robe covered his uniform. Why is he here? He studied the archive security for 14 years, Turvin said. His mistakes do not erase his knowledge. Merrick avoided the nearest crystal. Luma moved it closer to his face. At the 100th step, we entered a circular library large enough to contain the entire academy. Shelves rose into darkness. Black candles floated through the air. Books crawled along the floor on small paper legs. One sniffed my boot and opened its cover. Its pages were full of teeth. I wrote "shut" on its cover. 5 mana disappeared. The book snapped closed and remained that way for 5 seconds. Then every shelf began to shake. Dozens of tooth books jumped to the floor. The guards raised shields. Merrick shouted the activation question phrase for the archive barrier. Nothing happened. The formations are reversed, Sarah said. Someone changed the central stroke. Merrick stared at her. That is impossible. You maintained them for 14 years. 900 spectators heard every word. The books attacked. I could have written fire, but the shelves around us contained enough dry paper to burn for a month. I chose a cheaper problem. I wrote "full" across the largest book. 5 mana vanished, and the book swelled with blank pages until its cover became round. It rolled backwards, struck 5 others, and sent the entire pack tumbling between the shelves. Luma's nearest crystal followed them. The courtyard audience began to cheer. Sarah drew 2 brushes. White lines crossed the floor and tied the books together. The guards pushed the bundle into an empty cabinet. When full expired, 40 angry books were trapped inside one small space. The cabinet jumped like a washing machine with a personal enemy. We moved on. The next chamber contained a map drawn across the floor. 7 black marks showed archive vaults. The smallest vault held common books. The largest carried the name Umbrak. Between them waited a painted creature with 6 legs and a stone beak. The moment I looked at it, the image turned its head. Words appeared beneath the drawing. Graveldrake Archive Hunter. Recorded strength, 400 points. The creature climbed out of the floor. It was 3 meters long. Stone plates covered its back. Its beak opened sideways, which was a design decision I would have questioned if it were not running at us. The guards formed a wall. The drake broke it with 1 strike. Turvin moved behind the recording crystals. Merrick moved behind Turvin. I wrote light across the drake's front leg. The stone resisted. Taking 15 mana, its leg became light enough to rise with each step. The beast turned in a circle and crashed into a shelf. Sarah struck its eyes with 2 white strokes. It snapped at the lines, while Luma pulled an injured guard away. My remaining mana was 135. The picture on the floor remained. I looked at the name under it and remembered the system's second path. Story summoners created creatures from descriptions. I had not selected that class, but true writing did not care about class boundaries. It cared about meaning. I wrote Graveldrake on a clean page. 10 mana disappeared. Black ink poured from the letters and formed a second drake. It was smaller, only 2 meters long, but it carried every detail recorded in the map. My copy struck the original from the side. The 2 creatures rolled through a shelf. 900 people in the courtyard saw me summon a monster using only its written name. The system voice identified a new consequence of true writing. A name linked to a complete record could call a temporary copy. The better the record, the more accurate the summon. My drake lasted 5 seconds. That was enough. Sarah's white lines tightened around the original, and the guards drove their spears, bars beneath its stone plates. Now, I wrote heavy on its raised tail for 15 mana. The tail slammed down and pinned the creature to the floor. Luma's crystal captured the final impact. The courtyard roared so loudly that we heard it through 100 steps of stone. Luma turned 1 crystal toward the public viewing wall. The courtyard showed students standing on benches and replaying the summon with their hands. 3 merchants began bidding for the future right to buy recorded monsters. The first offered 40 silver per name. The second offered 60. The third offered 100 if I could produce a drake that did not bite customers. No contracts until we know whether the copy obeys after 5 seconds, I said. It disappears after 5 seconds, Luma replied. That is one reliable form of obedience. Sarah studied the name on the floor. My clan uses true names to strengthen fixed summons, but we need a prepared circle and 7 trained scribes. You used 2 words. 2 expensive words. Turvin moved closer to the diary. Could the same rule summon a recorded person? His question reached every crystal. I looked at Avena's name on the covered book. A person would require a better record and far more mana. The dean did not look disappointed. He looked as if I had confirmed confirmed the final number in a private calculation. Above us, the live expedition ranking placed my contribution first. 900 witnesses had now seen the supposed F-rank stain block a pack, alter a drake, and create a second monster. The nickname Law Scribe appeared across the public wall in letters taller than I was. The defeated Drake dissolved into 3 blue inkstones, each restored 30 mana or sold for 30 silver coins. I used 1. My mana rose from 110 to 140. I stored the other 2 in my coat. They were worth 60 silver. Strength and resources continued to rise, but the map beneath us changed. The black mark bearing Umbrak's name moved 1 chamber closer. The archive is rearranging itself, Luma said. No, Merrick replied. It is waking. We reached a small guardian kitchen before the next vault. The shelves held preserved bread, dried meat, jars of herbs, and honey sealed 300 years earlier. Turvin ordered a short rest for the injured guards. Sarah made stew in a black pot. She added dried beef, beans, onions, and 3 handfuls of green herbs. Luma found a round loaf that became soft when held near a candle. I opened the honey. It smelled like summer flowers. For 10 quiet minutes, the forbidden archive felt like a home with too many books. Luma dipped bread into the thick stew and passed me half. The broth was smoky and warm. Sweet honey softened the salty meat. If we live for it, she said, this will be the best review the dining hall has ever received. If we die, remove the part about the beans. Why? The dead deserve dignity. Sarah lowered her spoon to hide a smile. Merrick did not eat. While everyone watched the injured guards, he moved toward the map chamber. 1 recording crystal followed him. Luma had attached it to the back of his robe. On the public viewing wall, 900 students watched Merrick remove a black key from his pocket. He inserted it into the map and turned the symbol of the inner guardian toward our room. The kitchen walls split apart. An enormous figure made from shelves stepped through them. Books formed its body. Iron chains formed its arms. Its head was a blank stone tablet. Merrick ran back to Turvin. The archive activated by itself. Luma pointed to the crystal floating behind him. Turn around. His own face appeared on its surface beside the key in his hand. The audience above began chanting his name, not with respect, but with the rhythm used to call a slow farm animal. Merrick pulled the crystal from his robe and crushed it. 5 others continued recording. The shelf guardian swung 1 chain. It struck 2 guards and broke the cooking table. Hot stew covered Merrick from his boots to his waist. He screamed louder about the stew than the guardian. Turvin finally acted. He opened his black book and spoke a command. Golden bands surrounded the guardian, but they shattered at once. Its true record is missing, Sarah said. We cannot bind it without a name. The blank tablet turned toward the diary under Luma's arm. The woman's hand emerged again. Ink formed a single name across the cover. Ivana, do not write it, the woman warned. The guardian raised both chains. Behind me, Luma had nowhere to move. 1 injured guard lay across the only exit. The diary had been leading me to this choice since last night. I knew that. I wrote the name anyway. Ivana. The quill cut across the page. The system demanded 180 mana for a copy built from 300 years of records. I had 140. 40 milliliters of blood replaced the missing mana. Pain opened across my palm and ran up my arm. Black and red ink mixed on the page. A woman rose from it. She wore dark armor and carried a sword made from folded paper. Long black hair floated behind her. Her eyes were the pale gray of unwritten pages. The shelf guardian struck. Ivana drew her sword. 1 white line crossed the chamber. Both iron chains fell apart. The courtyard became silent. Ivana stepped forward and cut the blank tablet into 4 equal pieces. Every book in the guardian opened at once. A storm of loose pages filled the kitchen. She caught 1 page between 2 fingers. Sleep, she said. The guardian collapsed into an orderly stack of books. Then Ivana turned and struck me across the face. Shahid, it was not a hard blow, since it still surprised the 900 spectators. I told you not to write my name. You also saved us. Both statements are true. Her body flickered. 5 seconds had passed between, but she did not disappear. The diary mug continued feeding ink into her feet. The system voice explained that a complete historical record and hundreds of active witnesses had stabilized the summon. Avena was still a written copy, but her duration had become unknown. My true writing reached its 4th level. My maximum mana rose from 160 to 200. My stable sentence limit increased to 15 words. Above us, the public ranking board moved my name from 41 to 12. Turvin's promised C rank review became automatic. 200 silver coins were added to my reward. My money rose from 71 silver to 271, with 2 inkstones worth another 60. The guard seized Merrick. He tried to blame the key on me until Luma replayed the recording. They marched him up the stairs while the courtyard chanted the score of my first examination. 0. The number followed him all the way out. Avena watched the guards leave. Then she took the diary from Luma and read the cover. Her expression changed. This book is not mine. It carries your name, Sarah said. I died before I could write a single page. Dean Turvin closed the kitchen door. Golden writing spread across it. No one inside may leave. The remaining recording crystals fell dark. Turvin stood safely on the other side with his black book pressed to the seal. Thank you, Aaron, he said. The archive required its dead guardian to become real. Now I can open the king's cell. Ivana drove her sword into the golden sentence, but the words held. Somewhere beyond the kitchen, a lock the size of a building began to turn. Every book in the archive opened. Thousands of pages spoke with Umbrak's voice. One seal remains. At dawn, every book in Ashen Academy began reading aloud. They all used Turvin's voice, including a cookbook that confessed to treason between 2 soup recipes. We heard the noise through the sealed kitchen door. The golden sentence still covered it. No one inside may leave. Evana had cut the words 12 times. Sarah had tried 6 clan formations. Luma had shouted questions at the door until Turvin stopped answering. I slept for 3 hours beside the cold cooking pot. My mana recovered to its new maximum of 200, but my cut palms still hurt. When I woke, Luma was sitting beside me with the diary on her knees. It added a tournament schedule, she said. Ashen Academy's annual first-year tournament would begin at noon. Turvan had invited every family in the city. 4,000 seats were already reserved. He opened a demon's cell and kept the tournament. The announcement says the archive incident is under control. Ivana kicked the golden door. It is not under control. The cookbook knows, Luma said. I examined Turvin's sentence again. Destroying another writer's law required more power than I possessed. Changing it was different. The sentence was complete, but it was not precise. I raised my quill and added one word, alone. The law now said that no one inside could leave alone. The foreign writing fought me. 80 mana vanished before my word joined the sentence. I took Luma's hand with my left hand. She caught Sarah, Sarah caught Ivana. Together, we walked through the door. The golden law remained active. It simply no longer applied. The system voice confirmed another consequence of true writing. A written law could be revised without breaking it if the new meaning remained grammatically valid. Ivana looked back at the door. 300 years ago, armies fought for spells like that. It cost 80 mana to add one word. Armies cost more. Outside, the archive had changed, but the shelves were gone. A broad stone corridor led directly toward the arena. Thousands of books crawled along its walls, speaking Turvin's announcements. Between sentences about tournament snacks, they repeated one command. Bring the writer of laws to the central platform. Subtle, I said. The cookbook recommended adding salt. We followed the corridor until we reached a service door behind the academy dining hall. The cooks had fled when the books began talking. Breakfast remained on the tables. Luma locked the door behind us. Sarah found a basket and filled it with cheese rolls, smoked chicken, red apples, and small cakes covered with sugar. Ivana stared at the food as if it were another monster. You do not need to eat, Sarah told her. I remember being hungry. Ivana bit into a warm cheese roll. Melted cheese stretched from her mouth to the bread. She cut it with her paper sword before anyone could laugh. Luma gave her a second roll. I ate smoked chicken on soft bread with mustard. The skin was crisp, the meat warm, and the sharp sauce cleared the taste of blood from my mouth. For 5 minutes, we sat around one table like ordinary students hiding from an ordinary dean. Then every plate spoke with Turvin's voice. Aaron, report to the tournament arena. Failure to appear will be treated as an admission of demonic corruption. I put down my cake. I dislike food that gives orders. Luma packed the remaining cakes into her press bag. 4,000 witnesses are waiting. Let us make them useful. The arena gates opened when we approached. The stands were full. Students occupied the lower seats. Families and merchants filled the upper rows. Public viewing crystals carried the tournament to another 3,000 people in the city squares. The moment I entered, half the audience shouted my new title, Law Scribe! The other half shouted the word demon. Or Turvin had spent the morning printing his version first. He stood on the central platform in a ceremonial robe. His black book floated before him. Cord and 11 elite students waited in the combat circle. Cord looked unhappy. His shield had been repaired, but a visible fold still crossed its center. Turvin raised both hands. The Eastern Archive opened after Aaron used forbidden blood magic. For the safety of Ashen Academy, he will submit to a public purification match. If he remains in control of his ability, the barrier will recognize him. If not, our elite class will restrain him. Luma activated her 6 crystals. Ask him why he locked us beside Umbrock's cell, she called. The audience shifted. Turvin's book snapped shut. The reporter has been exposed to demonic influence. That is not an answer. Sarah walked beside us in full view of her clan's private balcony. Turvin altered a 300-year seal, she said. I examined his writing myself. Her grandfather stood in the balcony. He did not defend her, but he did not look away. Ivana entered last. Every member of Sarah's clan rose. They recognized the armor of their dead guardian. Turvin's calm expression tightened. A convincing ink construct, he said. Ivana drew her sword. Come closer and test that opinion. The front rows laughed. Turvin struck the black book with his palm. A transparent dome closed over the arena. Begin the purification. The 11 elite students spread out. Cord remained in front of them. Red light formed around his repaired shield. You can refuse, I told him. My father's funding contract depends on my academy rank. That was not hatred. It was a chain with a price written on it. Then lose carefully. Cord looked offended. 3 students began chanting fire spells. 4 prepared wind blades. 2 healers spoke support prayers. The final pair summoned stone armor. Every spell required a voice. I had 120 mana remaining. I dipped my quill into the black ink above my palm and wrote one word across the transparent dome. Silence. The base cost was 5 mana. Covering the entire arena added 95. 100 mana vanished. The word expanded above us until every spectator could read it. All sound inside the dome stopped. The fire chants vanished halfway through. Wind blades dissolved. The healers opened and closed their mouths. One stone mage shouted so hard that his face turned purple, but reality heard nothing. Outside the dome, 4,000 people became louder. Cord tried to summon his firehound. His lips formed the name. No flame appeared. He stared at me. I tapped the word above us. The first row laughed so hard that several people had to sit down. Outside the dome, tournament officials tested the effect from every angle. Their voices worked until they crossed the boundary and vanished at once. The public score crystals registered 12 failed spells in 3 seconds. Across the city, 3,000 viewers watched the same result. Betting boards that had offered 5 silver for everyone placed on my defeat froze, cleared themselves, and reopened with the numbers reversed. Merchants who had dismissed ink magic began calculating the price of silent territory wards. Luma pointed one crystal toward the enormous word above us. Yesterday he was ranked 41, she told the viewers. Today one word stopped the entire elite class. My reputation moved before the fight had even ended. Cord lowered his shield. Then one of Turvin's golden commands appeared on it. Attack. Cord's body moved against his will. The same command spread across all 11 students. They charged without spells. Turvan's black book used written magic, so silence did not affect it. I had 20 mana left. Sarah stepped in front of me. Her brushes moved without spoken commands. White lines crossed the sand and caught the first 4 students around their ankles. Ivana struck 3 weapons from 3 hands with the flat of her paper blade. Luma threw a sugar cake at Cord. It struck his forehead. He looked at her in disbelief. She pointed to the golden word on his shield. Cord understood. He turned the shield and drove its edge into the sand. The command told him to attack, but it did not define a target. He attacked the word. The repaired fold split open. Attack broke in half. Cord regained control. He swung his shield into the nearest golden command and shattered it. Sarah erased another with a white stroke. The elite students began destroying the writing that controlled them. Turvan slammed both hands against his book. Golden chains descended from the dome. They wrapped around Ivana and pulled her toward the center platform. Beneath her feet, a circular seal appeared. Umbrock's name burned around its edge. The arena had never been designed only for tournaments. It was the final lock. 4,000 spectators gave the formation the witnesses it required. Turvin had gathered them himself. Luma's crystals showed the seal on every public screen. The crowd stopped cheering. Turvin looked at the thousands of faces around him. Do not be afraid. Umbrock possesses eternal ink. With it, written laws can become permanent. Hunger can end. Disease can be forbidden. Death itself can be revised. The black book opened to a page holding a small portrait of a child. Like, my daughter died 12 years ago because a healing spell failed. The Academy called it an acceptable error. I will write a world where no parent hears those words again. His motive was not small. His price was everyone else. Black light rose beneath Ivana. Her ink body began flowing into the seal. I could not break the golden chains with 20 mana. I reached into my coat and crushed both blue ink stones. 60 mana entered my body. I had 80 and For Turvin's black book controlled the chains. It also contained every command he had prepared. I wrote one word across its cover, visible. The book resisted with the power of the Academy seal. The change cost 75 mana. Every hidden page appeared in the air. The arena saw Turvin's private records. They saw his payments to Merrick. They saw the orders that moved the eastern path into my room. They saw the tournament plan, the controlled students, and the line calculating that 300 deaths would be an acceptable cost. The final page showed his agreement with a man named Zoran from the Imperial Script Bureau. Zoran had promised permanent ink. Turvin had promised me. 4,000 witnesses read the exchange. Anders Kord's father, Bestat Jarn, stood in the family balcony. "You used my money to feed a demon?" he shouted. "Your contract funded the seal," Turvin replied. "I funded a roof." That sentence traveled through the arena faster than any spell. The audience began throwing tournament programs. One struck Turvan's forehead, then came fruit, cups, and a wooden souvenir shield. Turvan tried to close the book. Visible forced every page to remain open. Luma directed her crystals toward him. "Dean Turvin, do you still claim Aaron opened the archive alone?" He looked at the evidence floating around his head. "The city will forgive me when my law saves their children." "That is a yes," she said. Ivana twisted inside the chains and drove her paper sword into the seal. Sarah added a white clan stroke, Cord through his folded shield like a wheel. The shield struck Turvin's black book. Visible had made every hidden page physically present. The impact scattered them across the arena. The golden chains vanished. Ivana landed on her feet. The final seal cracked, but it did not open. Turvan fell backward into the ceremonial ink basin. It was only half a meter deep, but his wide robe absorbed enough ink to double its weight. He tried to stand and rolled onto his back like an angry black turtle. The combat dome disappeared. Sound returned at once. 4,000 people shouted together. The Academy Council crossed the arena while Turvin still fought his robe. His dean's chain was removed in front of the recording crystals. Guards placed sealing bands around his wrists. My silence remained above the arena for one final second. Then it fell as black rain. The system voice announced my 5th level. My maximum mana rose from 200 to 260. My stable law could now cover a bounded territory for 10 seconds instead of 5. The ranking board moved my name from 12 to 1. My C rank advanced to B rank. The tournament treasury paid me 500 silver coins because every opponent had surrendered or broken Turvin's command. My wealth rose from 271 silver to 771 when the law scribe was no longer a joke whispered in one academy. 7,000 viewers had watched me stop an entire tournament with one word. Luma ran to me. She checked my injured palm before anything else. 5 mana left, I said. Then do not write. That was my plan. She pressed her forehead against mine for one quiet breath while the arena shook with noise. Then every city viewing crystal turned black. 100 armored officers entered through the northern gate. Their uniforms carried the closed eye emblem of the Imperial Script Bureau. A thin man walked at their center. His coat was dark blue. A silver chain held 13 sensor seals across his chest. Zorn. He glanced at Turvin in the ink basin. "You were instructed to open the seal quietly." Turvin stared at him. "You promised to restore my daughter." "I promised that the law would be rewritten. I did not promise a place for you inside it." Zoran raised one sensor seal. The scattered pages of Turvin's book burned. So did the evidence on every viewing crystal. Luma lifted her printed copy. Its words vanished. Zoran turned toward me. "Aaron, by Imperial authority, your name, class, property, and written works now belong to the Script Bureau." Black chains rose around the arena. Below us, the cracked final seal opened by the width of one finger. Similarly, Umbrak laughed through 7,000 blank screens. "Wait, that is enough," the Demon King said. "I can write the rest myself." And why? By sunrise, my name had appeared on every blank surface in the city. Beneath it, Umbrak had written one command in my own handwriting. "Release me." The words covered walls, windows, plates, uniforms, and one very confused horse. Zoran's officers spent the night erasing them. Each erased sentence returned twice. I watched from a cell beneath the tournament arena. The Bureau locked my quill, purse, and academy token in iron boxes. 13 sensor seals covered my door. My maximum mana had recovered to 260. Without the quill, I could produce ink, but could not form stable writing. Luma and Sarah occupied the opposite cells. Ivana stood inside a glass case covered with golden words. Cord had not been arrested. Zoran considered him a harmless, rich student. That was the nicest insult anyone had given us. Zoran entered after dawn with 4 officers. His dark coat showed no dust from the night. The 13 seals on his chest had been polished. "The city is under textual quarantine," he said. "At noon, Aaron will complete the diary. Umbrak will enter a bureau vessel, and this crisis will end." "You sound very certain," Luma said. "Certainty is the purpose of law." He placed Ivana's diary on a desk between our cells. This book never predicted the future, he continued. It recorded Aaron's past through the mark on his palm. Then it created situations that made its next lines likely. People are easy to predict after you control their choices. The diary had read my memories, then pushed Merrick and Turvin toward its preferred ending. Why put Ivena's name on it? Sarah asked. The seal required her recorded identity. Umbrak remembered enough to build a copy. Aaron supplied the ink. Ivana struck the glass with her fist. One sensor seal cracked. Zoran moved 2 steps farther away. And Turvin? I asked. A grieving man with authority is a useful key. His wish to restore one child allowed us to save an empire. By releasing a demon king. By controlling permanent law, a careless child could burn a city with one word. A king could erase hunger and accidentally erase everyone who feels it. Magic needs approved formulas because freedom is dangerous. Zoran's motive was reasonable. His conclusion placed every quill in his own hand. The Bureau will bind Umbrak, he said. Then only Imperial censors will create new laws. Order will survive. What happens to me? Your hand survives as Wusapas. He did not mention the rest of my body. Zoran noticed Luma memorizing his words. There are no recording crystals here. Reporters had memories before crystals. Zoran left 2 officers outside and took the diary with him. The moment the outer door closed, a small metal disc rolled down the corridor. It stopped beneath Luma's bars. Cord's voice came from inside it. Are you alive? Unfortunately for your reputation, Luma whispered. Good. I have 9 students, 3 cooks, Sarah's grandfather, and the goat boy. Why the goat boy? The goat ate an officer's warrant. He is committed now. Cord's father had smuggled paper and 20 portable presses through the quarantine inside supply wagons. Luma removed her silver press badge from her hair. Zoran had searched her coat and bag, but he had not searched the badge itself. A narrow strip of my blood-stained bandage was wrapped around its pin. My ink remained inside the cloth. I need 1 sentence, she said. Something simple enough for the entire city to read together. The bars kept us apart. I formed a drop of mana ink, but without the quill, it fell. Luma pushed the metal message disc between the cells. I caught it with my foot. Its edge was sharp enough to scratch stone. It was not a good pen. It was better than no pen. I dipped one edge into the ink and wrote across the floor. The Demon King will become mortal. 6 words cost 30 mana. The cell's sensor field resisted and demanded another 30. The sentence shone for 5 seconds. Luma pressed the bloodstained strip against it. The cloth absorbed every letter before the law faded. She wrapped the strip around her press badge and slid it into the message disc. 20 presses, she told Cord. 1,000 copies from each. Place them in every square before noon. That is 20,000 pages. Yes. My father will ask who pays for the paper. Tell him the demon. The disc rolled away. One officer opened the corridor door and found 4 quiet prisoners. The goat screamed somewhere above us. Both officers ran upstairs. Sarah pulled a brush from inside her sleeve. They searched you, I said. They searched for weapons. This is a family heirloom. It has a steel point. A very traditional family heirloom. She drew a white line through the air. It slipped between the bars and reached the first iron box. One seal broke. The box holding my quill opened. The bonded quill rose by itself and flew toward me. It struck 3 bars before finding the gap between them. The reunion lacked dignity, but it worked. I had 200 mana left. 13 seals covered my cell. Breaking them would cost more than 300. Editing their shared command was cheaper. The golden sentence read, prisoners remain within assigned cells. I added 1 word, voluntarily. The seals resisted with 100 mana. My door opened. Sarah looked at the revised command. Your magic rewards annoying grammar. My old editor would finally be proud. I freed Luma with the same law because it controlled every cell. Ivena's glass case was different. Its command defined her as a written property of the Bureau. I could not simply add a word. The definition itself had to change. Ivena placed her palm against the glass. Do not waste your blood. Break the seal at noon. If Umbrak becomes mortal, I can kill him again. Again. I killed his body 300 years ago. His story refused to end. Luma gripped Ivena's hand through the glass. We will come back. Ivena nodded once. Sarah opened the service passage. We escaped 10 minutes before Zoran's officers returned. The academy had become a printing house. Presses hammered in kitchens and classrooms. Students carried bundles through side streets, while Sarah's clan sent paper birds toward these distant squares. Cord stood on a wagon wearing his folded shield. 19,000 copies are out, he said. The final 1,000 are printing now. How much paper did your father own? He invests aggressively. The goat boy rode beside him. His goat had half a censor warrant hanging from its mouth. With the crystals blank, Luma read Zoran's confession from the wagon. Students and shopkeepers repeated it until thousands knew the Bureau had planned the seal's opening. Zoran could erase erase ink. He could not erase an entire city's memory. At noon, Bell summoned everyone to the Academy Arena. Zoran had rebuilt the transparent dome. 12,000 people filled the stands and surrounding squares. Black armored officers guarded every exit. The cracked demon seal burned on the central platform. I returned through the main gate with Luma and Sarah beside me. The crowd lifted 20,000 pages. For the first time, Zoran's polished expression vanished. "Seize them!" The officers advanced. Its Cord's shield struck the first rank from the side. Sarah's clan dropped white lines from the upper balconies. Students locked arms across the entrances. Merchants overturned carts to block the officers. No one needed a spell to choose a side. Zoran activated the seals across his chest. Delete hostile writing. Black light swept through the arena. Sarah's lines disappeared. My printed sentence vanished from the first 1,000 pages. Luma raised her empty sheet. "Read it anyway!" One section spoke, then another. Soon 12,000 voices repeated words that no longer existed on paper. "The Demon King will become mortal." Zoran's deletion failed to touch them. The cracked seal opened another meter. Black smoke rose and formed a hand larger than the central platform. It struck the dome from inside. Umbrak was using the witnesses too, which for the diary floated above the opening. Its last unfinished sentence burned across the sky. "Tomorrow, Aaron will open the sealed archive beneath Ashen Academy. There he will free the Demon King Umbrak." Zoran caught my right arm. One sensor seal locked around my wrist. Another forced the quill toward the floating sentence. "Write that Umbrak is bound to the script bureau," he ordered. "Will he obey?" "The law will make him." The demon laughed below us. Zoran's confidence looked much less comfortable from close range. I touched the quill to the unfinished line. Then I added 2 words from immortality. The diary fought me with 300 years of stored power. Umbrak's true name carried 12,000 points of resistance. My remaining 100 mana was not enough. The pages in the crowd turned black again. Every reader added 1 point of narrative weight. 900 witnesses had stabilized Ivana. 4,000 had accepted silence. Now 12,000 voices forced one meaning into Umbrak's story. The system counted 12,418 active witnesses. The resistance broke. The complete prophecy burned across the sky. There he will free the Demon King Umbrak from immortality. The diary screamed. Zoran released my arm. "What did you do?" "I followed the sentence." The black hand rising from the seal became flesh. For the first time in 300 years, Umbrak had a body that could die. The Demon King tore the arena platform apart and climbed into daylight. He stood 12 meters tall. 4 horns surrounded his head. Burning pages formed his wings. He found a small cut on one finger and stared at its blood with more fear than he had shown the city. The crowd saw it too. Then 12,000 people cheered. Umbrak roared and swung one wing toward the stands. I had 90 mana left. I rode across the broken dome. No one behind me may be harmed for 10 seconds. 10 words cost 50 mana. The size of the protected area demanded the remaining 40. My mana reached 0. A black wall covered half the arena. Umbrak's burning wings struck it and stopped. Cracks spread across every word, but the law held. 10 seconds were enough for 12,000 people to escape the lower seats. They were also enough for Luma to reach Ivana's glass case. Cord had carried it from the cells on a supply wagon. Sarah's grandfather drew the clan symbol across its seals. Luma pressed the original blood-stained bandage against the word property. "She has a name," Luma said. "She is not an object." Thousands repeated Ivana's name. The glass shattered. Ivana rose through the falling pieces with her paper sword in both hands. She jumped from Cord's shield. He threw it upward like a metal platform. Sarah's white lines caught Ivana in the air and pulled her toward Umbrak's chest. The Demon King recognized her. "You are only a copy." "So is your body." Ivana drove her sword through his heart. Umbrak screamed. Fire rolled across the dome. My protective sentence broke at the exact end of 10 seconds. The demon tore Ivana's sword from his chest. The wound began to close, then it stopped. He was no longer immortal. Sarah sent every white line in the arena into the wound. Cord struck the hilt with his repaired shield. Ivana drove the sword deeper. Umbrak fell backward into the seal. The ground shook once. The diary burst into blank pages. The Demon King's body became ordinary black ink and rained over the central platform. One drop landed on Zoran's polished coat, then another. His 13 seals released every sentence they had erased. Words filled his clothes until he looked like an angry blue balloon packed with dictionaries. Hidden orders appeared across the fabric. The crowd read his authorization of Turvin's ritual. They read the planned seizure of my body. They read the list of officials he intended to remove after gaining permanent law. Zoran tried to run. His inflated coat lifted him from the ground. He floated 2 meters into the air, rotated slowly, and dropped into the same ceremonial ink basin that had caught Turvin. The city laughed louder than it had for Cord's fountain. The officers read the evidence and lowered their weapons. The council sealed Zoran's badges, and Sarah's grandfather tied his coat shut. Luma stood on the broken platform and repeated Zoran's confession for every recording crystal that had returned to life. This time, 7,000 city viewers and 12,000 witnesses heard it together. The script bureau could not call the story a rumor. The system voice spoke after the last trace of Umbrak vanished. True writing had reached its 6th level. My maximum mana rose from 260 to 500. My stable sentence limit increased to 20 words. The Academy recognized my combat status as a rank. The Treasury returned my 771 silver coins. The Council added 5,000 silver taken from Zoran's secret fund as compensation. My wealth became 5,771 silver. 5 days earlier, I'd owned 4 copper coins and ranked below a goat. Now I was first in Ashen Academy, an A-rank law mage, and the man who had made a Demon King mortal with 2 words. The goat still refused to bow. I respected that. By evening, the city smelled of wet paper, smoke, and cooking food. The small noodle stall across from the academy reopened first. Its owner placed tables in the street because the building had lost one wall. Luma, Sarah, Evena, Cord, and I sat around one large pot. The broth held slices of beef, mushrooms, green onions, soft eggs, and thick noodles. Pepper oil floated like red glass on top. Fresh bread absorbed the rich soup. Someone brought roasted chicken, and Cord's father supplied 3 trays of honey cakes as an apology for funding almost every bad decision of the week. Evena ate 4 cheese rolls before touching her noodles. Sarah pretended not to count. Cord placed his repaired shield against the table. I want a rematch when your mana recovers. Near a fountain? I asked. There will be no water within 1 kilometer. Then you are learning. He raised his bowl instead of arguing, whereas Turvin and Merrick remained in custody. Turvin saw his daughter's portrait once before the council closed his book. His grief explained his choice, but did not erase it. Zoran left the arena inside a plain gray blanket because his coat had become evidence. Sarah's clan agreed to teach natural language. Evena became Archive Guardian again, with a salary and unlimited dining hall access. Luma's final edition sold 3,000 copies before sunset. She placed the first one in front of me. The headline read, "Last Place Ink Mage Rewrites Demon King's Ending." Accurate? She asked. You forgot the goat? He demanded a separate interview. After dinner, the academy offered me a tower suite because my old room no longer had a wall. I chose one with a desk beside the window. Luma placed the final blank page of Avena's diary on it. Does it still predict tomorrow? She asked. I touched the page. Nothing appeared. No command, no threat, no unfinished prophecy. Luma stood beside me, close enough that her shoulder touched mine. What will you write? Something inexpensive. I wrote 2 words. Quiet evening. 10 mana left the new reserve of 500. The noise from the rebuilding academy faded beyond the window. Warm lamplight filled the room. Luma read the words, took the quill from my hand, and kissed me. The system remained silent. It was the first perfect result that cost me nothing. On the desk, the future page stayed blank. For the first time in 2 lives, the next sentence belonged only to me.